guys, welcome back! The Amiga was home of so many mind-blowing exclusives in so many different genres. So, here's my top 10 choices that all gamers should try at least once in their lives. Let's take a look. The X-Copy days! We could have the entire Amiga library stored in a couple of these plastic archive boxes, and for me, here in Portugal, buying X-copied games was a perfectly normal and legit thing to do till 1991, cause the Anti-Piracy Law 109 only arrived by the 17th of August of that year. So I can say that I've played a big chunk of Amiga games and that 90% of its exclusives are totally awesome and astonishing audiovisual masterpieces. Without further ado, I present you with my personal favorite exclusive Amiga video games.
Odyssey.
By 1995, everyone was already playing Doom 2 and all clones available, but that didn't stop Audiogenic to bring this 2D game named Odyssey, a platformer with a twist. There are puzzles to solve, puzzles that generally involve doors and switches, but some areas are inaccessible to the human character. Remember when I said that this was a platformer with a twist? As the game progresses, crystals allows us to transform into other creatures like birds, spiders and grasshoppers that will open up other new areas. So Odyssey is simply about visiting the 6 islands featured in-game and composed by exterior and interior sections and getting from one place to another solving puzzles as we go. Amiga Format Issue 75 even offered an exclusive extra training island on one of its cover discs. Assassin. Team 17 was known as one of the most incredibly challenging group of people that published extraordinary Amiga titles. They have in their resume the Alien Breed and Worms franchises, and most of their initial coders and artists had a background in the Amiga demo scene. They were also known to push the Amiga to its limits, forcing its users to have 1 MB of RAM in their machines to be able to run games published by Team 17. And the audio environment, compliments from Alistair Brimble, would really immerse the player into this futuristic setting. Already reviewed in the channel, this gem was developed by Psionic Systems and originally released in 1992, having also 2 years later a special edition of the game that I consider a complete waste of time and resources. Check my review for more details. Agony. Agony wasn't just a pretty cover, it was and still is one of the greatest shoot-em-ups of all time and a true work of art. Developed by Art and Magic and published also in 1992 by Psygnosis, Agony places us in control of an owl fighting its way through 6 gorgeous-looking worlds packed with beasts and monsters. It's a really hard and demanding game, but the music and graphics compensates all the frustration. By the way, and as told on my Psygnosis retrospective, the piano intro by Tim Wright ended up being adapted without consent or credit by the Norwegian symphonic black metal band Dimmu Borgir and featured in their Stormblast album from 1996. Later, this same album was re-released without that track. Hybris and Banshee. In 7th, I have to place 2 amazing and mind-boggling vertical shooters, Hybris and Banshee. I can't simply decide which one is best. They're both astonishing accomplishments on the Amiga, and as for Banshee, besides being an Amiga exclusive, it's also an AGA-only title that could only be played on a compatible AGA machine like the CD32, the A1200 and the A4000. For those who doesn't know what that is, It's the advanced graphics architecture, or simply the third generation Amiga graphics chipset. Banshee was developed and released by Core Design in 1994 for the CD32 and the Amiga 1200, and is still considered one of the best examples of Amiga gaming. It secretly introduced a dynamic difficulty system that would increase the aggressiveness of the enemies in relation to the player's skills, making the game harder as the player became better at playing it. As for Hybris, it was a true display of the audiovisual capabilities of the Amiga. It was developed by a Danish studio by the name Capcom that also brought Battle Squadron, considered as Hybris' spiritual successor. Discovery Software published it as early as 1988, and it helped to sell a lot of Amigas, cause it was as good or even better than playing at the arcades. Plus, it had unlimited continues, no loading pauses, and top-notch playability. Capcom is still around, and a couple of years ago was rumored that they were preparing to release Hybris for iOS and Android phones. Let's hope that they can really deliver that. Ruff and Tumble. Just when Commodore went bankrupt, Renegade Bitmap Brothers subsidiary responsible for also publishing, for instance, The Amazing Gods and The Chaos Engine, released back in 1994 this Amiga exclusive title by the name Ruff and Tumble, developed by Wunderkind. If I'm not mistaken, it was the developer's only game commercially available title. I've never heard from them again since Ruff and Tumble. The demise of Commodore really crippled the 16-bit home computer video game market, and many smaller studios simply disappeared. If you guys have any news or whereabouts of Wunderkind, just let me know in the comments section below. I don't even know if I'm spelling it correctly. This game is a work of art. I absolutely love Ruff and Tumble. Such an amazing action platformer that really came in the wrong time, and being an Amiga exclusive didn't help at all. With a freaking fast soundtrack that instantly reminds me of the 2016 Doom, it helps to keep the adrenaline levels really high and blast everything that crosses our path. All this in blistering speeds. Amazing stuff, a true classic and underrated gem. Uridium II. Another Renegade release of an exclusive, mind-blowing and frenetic shoot-'em-up title from Graphsgold. 1993 was still a normal year for Commodore's machines, so I can say that this game came in just about the right time to keep the flame alive for the Amiga with one more superb exclusive. It retains the same style of gameplay and setting of the very first Uridium, that, as opposed to this one, was released for practically all home computers available by 1986, the C64, the ZX Spectrum, the Amstrad CPC, the BBC Micro, the Atari ST, and for MS-DOS based PCs. Curiously, there wasn't an Amiga version of the original Uridium, so for Uridium 2, designer Andrew Braybrook went for a sort of reboot of the first game exclusively for the Amiga that also had an extra help from the team behind Turrican. Shadow of the Beast 3. Now comes my favorite Shadow of the Beast game, the third one. Released in 1992, it introduced unseen water and objects physics, clever puzzles, highly inspired by text adventures, and exceptional platform action. Reflections went all in with this third chapter, after a quite disappointing second entry in the series. After regaining his human shape, we must help Arbron, the main character from all three games, to defeat Maletoth once and for all, so that he can return to his final human form that he so arduously pursues since the very first Shadow of the Beast, in where he was transformed into a beast to serve the almighty evil lord. A Mega Drive Genesis version was considered and developed to a certain point, but ended up cancelled, probably due to the mixed reviews that Beast 3 received, mainly due to the high difficulty levels of its puzzles, the copy protection that prevented the use of a hard drive, and the absence of a save feature. Lionheart. Thalion Software was formed by members of the amazing Atari ST demo scene back in the 80s, and from them emerged names that nowadays are huge in the video game industry. This studio was responsible for some of the most audiovisual masterpieces ever seen on an Atari ST and the Amiga. They would push these machines to its limits and beyond. From Thalion's amazing portfolio came in 1993 Lionheart, this visually outstanding piece of programming that features differently generated environments depending on the difficulty setting chosen by the player in the beginning of the game. It's a basic hack-and-slash platform game with a super parallax scrolling effect, in where we take control of a warrior from the land of the cat people that had its origins on another Thalion exclusive Amiga game, the second title from the Amber series by the name Amber Moon. Fuzzball. By the end of 1991, System 3 published Fuzzball, this gorgeous-looking and highly addictive puzzle platformer that came from Scan Games Norway and almost had also a C64 version. A two-level preview was even bundled in Commodore format, but this port ended up being cancelled in the last minute due to inside conflicts. Fuzzball is also the only title developed by Scan Games Norway that had a commercial release. Despite all that, Fuzzball is, for me, highly addictive with beautiful graphics, music, and extremely challenging gameplay. Even today, when I play Fuzzball, I'm completely absorbed by it, and it's really hard to let go, cause I just want to clear one more screen again and again. And there's 50 of these, with an obvious increased level of difficulty, and decorated with different styles. It can also be really frustrating, cause if we touch an enemy, we're instantly dead. There's no energy bar, so we must plan our every move really carefully, and to complicate things even more, some screens have ice over the floors. These were the days when games were really challenging and finishing every single screen or level is a victory. Apidya II. For last, I kept Apidya II from German studio Kaiko, published by Playbyte in 1992, a subdivision of Blue Byte, later acquired by Ubisoft back in 2001, and highly praised for their The Settlers and Anno series. Nowadays, they're currently working in the recently announced Skull and Bones. Back to Apidya II, the first thing that stands out after loading this game is the amazing soundtrack by Chris Hulsbeck, famous for providing music for the Turrican franchise. And the manga style really shows the studio's love and passion for the artistic vision of Oriental Japanese culture regarding not only arcade and console video games, but also comics and TV animated series. We play as Ikuru that transforms himself into a deadly bee to try and rescue his wife that was poisoned by Aksai, an evil black magic lord. The gameplay mechanics were highly inspired by R-Type and Gradius, and there's a handful of levels, each composed of 3 or more stages, to blast our way through hordes of mutated enemies. The funny thing is that after playing Apidya II, gamers would start looking for Apidya I, but the 2 on this game's title was just a joke from the developers. To conclude, here's some honorable and also exclusive mentions. Back in those days, developers would create games for the systems and platforms of their liking and the ones they were familiar with. The overwhelming audiovisual capabilities of the Amiga computer ended up being the platform of choice for many European studios, and I recall that the system would always stand out when displayed in stores demoing the latest hits. So guys, here you have it, 10 plus 7 video games that are exclusive to the Amiga, and that's not their only virtue. All these titles are still extremely good and playable, and everyone should try them. Feel free to check my other Amiga related videos, I have a bunch on my channel that you probably have missed. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share, comment and subscribe to It's a Pixel Thing. Thank you very much for watching and I'll see you all in the next episode.